Well, today is Wednesday, and you all know what that means. Today we celebrate AEW's anniversary ever since we saw them debut on Washington, D.C. back in 2019. I feel like, they have accomplished a whole lot and everything else. However, this is only going to have one review with AEW Dynamite, but I decided to do a little something different. As you know, I did a news update regarding Unagi Sayaka, so we're gonna do a little discussion about her. So who she is, where she's wrestled at, and what is it about her that makes her unique, and all this and that. And of course, we cannot forget some news updates. I think there's certain ones we definitely need to talk about. So let's get ready for another episode of the Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to the Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that it's pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J Rod here. So let's begin with AEW's Dynamite with the anniversary show in Washington, D.C., celebrating 3 years of them being around. It opened up with MJF versus Wheeler Yuta. Now, this feud between them started a couple weeks ago when Wheeler Yuta was doing an interview with Tony Schiavone, and of course, he was interrupted by the salt of the earth himself, or shall we say, the devil himself, MJF. So this led to that match. But this match was very good. I have to say it was a good opener because there's a little bit more of the technical aspect of wrestling in this match. And I think that's really good because if you guys been aware about MJF, he does have a bit of the technical background. And I think that this was a good one. I think it showed let William Regal, who is the leader of the Blackpool Combat Club, saying, it's a good thing that he knows some things, but the problem is how much advanced is he? But one thing that was very impressive is how MJF was able to modify his finisher, the Salt of the Earth, differently than he normally would, that allowed him to win the match. Now, Wheeler Yuta, on the other hand, he wanted to shake MJF's hand, like showing you were the better man today. However, Stokey Hathaway, along with Lee Moriarty, showed up and attacked him. I don't know what the message was, but what Stokey did pissed off, of course, William Regal. Now, we all know how William Regal is. He's a dangerous individual. He's the most evilest person you guys ever meet. So he did not like what he saw. But however, you know, basically MJ had messed up because he was following the lead of Stokey Hathaway. I don't know exactly if we're going to see a feud between the Blackpool Combat Club and the firm. Next up, as you know, the Jericho Appreciation Society have a big night. Sammy and Chris Jericho will be facing against Daniel Garcia and Brian Danielson. However, they're still a little bit disappointed with what Daniel Garcia pulled off. As you know, he made the choice to leave and go his own way, which really pissed him off. So they're going to try to humiliate him tonight. Our next match is Jay Lethal versus Darby Allin. Now, this was a very unusual setting coming from Jay Lethal. Now, he told Sanjay Dutt and Satnam Singh to stay behind. Now, you probably say, was that wise out of him? Well, you got to think about this. Darby Allin, he's a relentless kind of individual. Now, anybody could talk about it. Even Taz had to explain, look, we even beat his ass up, but no matter what, he keeps coming back. And it's true. So, in a way, Sanjay Dutt doesn't understand. Even if they try to take him out, he will always come back. Always finds a way to keep on fighting. And I think that's what Jay Lethal is self-aware. But I think it took a lot of beating for Darby. But the biggest mistake was Sanjay Dutt and Satnam Singh showing up. But Jay Lethal told him. So he got distracted. Now, I don't say that Jay Lethal dropped the ball. I would have said maybe if Jay Lethal would have had the opportunity to win Without the help of Dutt, Sanjay, and Satnam, it would have been better. But no. But Darby Allin applied the Last Supper, giving him the opportunity to pick up the win. And of course, right after the match, Darby Allin extended his hands to Jay Lethal. So basically, we don't know what that means in the near future, but it would be interesting. Now, our next match is the TNT title. Now we have Brian Cage with Prince Nana, who's going to face against Wardlow. Now, this is the first time we see these two face together. To me, they're about equal as size, but for guys of their size, they're very big and agile. Now, you would say these two men would never pull off a shooting star press or a moonsault. True, but I mean, we've seen big guys do it. Look, Keith Lee back in the early days, he was limitless for what he does. But now we're seeing that in a similar setting. But one thing that led to another is, of course, Wardlow doing what we thought was going to be possible, if it was possible. Could he powerbomb Symphony Brian Cage? Well, he did that like a bunch of times, like maybe 5 or 6. I mean, who's counting? But yes, it did allow him to pick up the win. But members of the Embassy, which was the creation of Prince Nana, confirmed with the Gates of Agony, attacked Wardlow, and Samoa Joe comes out to help his bro. But however, the numbers was too much until we saw the top guys. FTR shows up, giving them the helping hand. So this is going to be interesting. Now we're seeing FTR, FTR, Joe, and Wardlow all in the same ring. That's kind of very cool. Now, since the arrival of Saraya, a lot of buzz was boogie. As you know, Britt Baker, I have to say, I mentioned this before when it comes to Britt Baker. Is she threatened by the sudden appearance of Saraya? As I mentioned this before, Britt Baker has always said that she runs the division. But however, you got someone who is higher up than her, with a far more better reputation than her. That's a bigger threat. So she decides to go out saying that, Saraya is not clear to wrestle. That she just needs to go home and never come back. However, she did show up. She decided to escort her girls. We're talking about Willow Nightingale, Athena, and Toni Storm. Well, they face off, of course, Penelope Ford, Jamie Hayter, and Serena. Now, if you guys notice in this match, much of the crowd was behind Jamie Hayter, and I think that's one of the things we should be paying attention. But of course, the X factors in this match we see, of course, is Britt Baker and, of course, Rebel trying to apply, that they're going to win this match. However, it did not happen. But Willow Nightingale picked up a great match by pinning Penelope Ford in a powerbomb setting maneuver and boom, winning. However, when Saraya was trying to congratulate Willow, and Britt Baker is like trying to push them aside, like saying, nope, you're not celebrating with her. It's more like I said it before. She's threatened by the sudden appearance of Saraya getting all the attention. But, of course, nobody liked that. While, of course, we saw Saraya and Britt Baker get in a brawl. But the obvious question is she really cleared or not? Because, as you know, WWE doctors are a bunch of scumbags, in my opinion. But the best part we saw is Rebel getting super kicked by Saraya. So that's going to be interesting. So I feel this story is telling us, okay, Saraya is now getting all the attention, and that's driving Britt Baker nuts. She wants her gone, and I think that's what's going on. She's trying to say, maintain her status. I am the one who runs the division. Well, it looks like it doesn't. And remember, last week she did say she was able to convince Tony Khan to put that lumberjack. And she said, I finally have a boss who can listen to me. So the obvious question is she getting more pull than Britt Baker? Well, we'll find out soon enough. Now, our next interview, as you know, recently we've been seeing developments going on in the AFO camp. As you know, Private Party has not been on the same page. Now, Rush and Jose called them up saying, where were you guys? Now, as you know, Private Party were nowhere to be found and all this and that. So that kind of sets into a different tailspin. So they're trying to tell them, do your damn jobs. So that's what's going on. So the obvious question is, will they do it? Well, we'll find out. Now, Since this is the third year anniversary of AEW, and you all know that it started the AEW Dynamite at Washington D.C. 3 years ago, I have to say it was National Scissor. I think this segment was awesome. I enjoyed. I had a lot of laughs. All this and that. I think that kind of shows us, these guys are really going on top. So I loved it. However, Swerve Strickland, who's not a happy camper because of what took place. He feels that he was cheated out thanks to Billy Gunn, all this and that. He did demand a rematch for the tag title spot. However, they're trying to. However, he wants a piece of Billy Gunn for what he caused, and I think it's going to tell us the story. Okay, that's happened. But once again, Smart Mark Sterling shows up. Now, keep in mind, a while back, Sterling has been trying to tell people we need to get rid of Sir Strickland, and now he's trying to say he believes in these guys. And not to mention, once again, we're seeing that same old crap again with Billy, where they're trying to drive a wedge with Billy. We saw that with his sons, with the Ass Boys, and now Sterling is doing this with of course with the Acclaim. This time it did not work, but we are going to see that match take place next week between Swerve and Billy. Now, as you may have heard, certain changes had took place for a certain match. Well, on Rampage, I think on Rampage we're going to see the AEW Trios title being on the line, but this one is on the anniversary of the late Brody Lee's last match. What appropriate way for the Dark Order to pay homage to their fallen leader, to have a challenge for the AEW World Trios Championship. If they win it, it proves that they are still in cohesive that we normally expect. So that's going to be good. Now, as you know, recently we have seen certain amazing things going on in the women's division. Madison Rayne, who's the coach, apparently she has her the eyes on Sky Blue, who is a very talented. But once again, the Jericho Appreciation Society are saying that pro wrestlers are nothing but losers. But of course, Sky Blue says that I can work on my charisma while you work on your wrestling. So we're going to see that match on Rampage. Now, our next match, we have Rush versus Hangman Page. As you know, this feud between them took place back at the Golden Ticket Battle Royal. This was a very interesting match where they beat the crap out of each other. But of course, X Factor in this match is Jose. But luckily, Hangman was able to overcome it and buckshot lariat Rush. However, when post-match, we saw Private Party show up, but then we saw Jon Moxley makes their appearance. But however, MJF saw this. He's watching this from afar. It's still unclear what he's planning, but we do know he can cash in that chip at any given time. But Moxley did say to Hangman that he's a sweet kid, but he needs to learn to keep his mouth shut because it will get him in trouble. So that's going to be a very interesting match we're going to see. Now, I did mention before, Will Nangio picked up a huge win in that trios match. And then, of course, in the battle, she has been put in the battle of the belts for the TBS title. However, they decided, Baddies and Jade to get on her nerves. But Willow knows that she lost to her. But the real question is, she does have a point. Nobody's champion forever. And I think that sets the tone. I think it may drive Jade Cargill a bit nervous. Because it's true. How many wrestlers we've seen, they thought they can be undefeated forever? Well, that doesn't happen. It does happen, but we just don't know when that would happen. So that will happen soon enough. Our next match, we have Luchasaurus versus Fuego del Sol. Now, you can say this was a squash match. Right away, with Luchasaurus comes out. And, of course, Jungle Boy shows up and attacks Luchasaurus when he was about to hurt of Fuego, but this time he wants a match against Luchasaurus anytime, any place. So Christian warned him that he should have just stayed home, but nope. Jungle Boy is a very stubborn person. He's not going to let this stop him. So Christian said that next week in Toronto, they'll have this match. So Jungle Boy is going to be prepared. Now, our main event is Sammy Guevara versus Sammy Guevara and Chris Jericho taking on Daniel Garcia and Bryan Danielson. I think this match was pretty good. But however, of course, we all know how this is going to play out. Chris Jericho would do anything to ensure he win. He whacked Daniel Garcia with something, but I couldn't make out what it was. But now it's like they're going to mock him, saying, "We told you that sports entertainers always win." But, however, I don't think that's going to change anything for Garcia. But he will get his revenge sooner than enough because, as you know, Bryan Danielson will be facing Jericho in Toronto for the ROH World Title. So that's going to be a very interesting match to see. So we'll see what happens on Rampage this coming Friday, and of course next week on Dynamite at Toronto. So we'll see. But right now, let's move on to DWZ discussions.
Get the guns, the drugs from my generation. I'll take the fall, the stage, and across the nation. And it's a sin, the guns, the fake, the fraud, the messing with me. Come on, come on, come on, let's get it on. Move to the music, play like fucking music. Move it to the music, yeah. Move to my music, play like fucking music. Live through my music, yeah. Now get the guns, the drums from my generation. I'll take the fall, the stage, and across the nation. And it's a sex, the gods, the fakes, the fraud, they're messing with me. Come on, come on, come on, let's get it on. Move to the music, play that fucking music. Move it to the music, yeah. Move to my music, play that fucking music. Live through my music.
Okay, so welcome to DWZ discussions. This is not the bigger one that I normally do. This is like the short and sweet, simple version. Now, who is Unagi Sayaka? Well, Unagi, if you guys know this, she is currently a Yoshi wrestler from Stardom, part of one of my favorite units, Cosmic Angels. What do we know about her? Well, let's start from that. Not much of her personal life is out there, but certain people try to pick up certain things along the way. There is a Twitter page called Kiwi underscore 011 where they posted photos of Unagi. She used to be part of a band. Yeah, I was surprised. It's still unclear what if she was a singer or she was a musician. I don't know. But yeah, but she also did some idol Gravenoir moments, similar to Mina Shirakawa, but hers was a bit more risque, from what I can tell. But yeah, but if she did all that, then why did she join pro wrestling? I don't know, but I think from what I heard, from Stardom Fan, which is a YouTube channel, they found information about her personal life, where she is athletic. It turns out that she used to be a swimmer, tried to compete in the Olympics. So that's a bit why she would join pro wrestling. Now, she didn't join pro wrestling right away. She did make appearances at DDT Peter Pan series in 2019. So, but but she did had a match on the July 15th of 2019 at Wrestle Peter Pan, where she teamed up with Natsumi Maki, who we also know as Natsupoi, and her mentor Yuna Manaze. So basically, they lost that match, but they faced against Rika Tatsumi and the Bakuratsu sister, Nodoka Temna and Yuki Anoi. But she did make her debut on January 4th of 2020 in Tokyo Joshi Pro by using her real name, which is Imawari Unagi. So that explains a lot. She made her debut on TJPW 19 show. Fought as a singles competitor, but there has been videos where she had teamed up with Pa Marijuku. But if you guys know this or not, there's a bit of history with certain wrestlers you may know now that they're in the Cosmic Angels. And one of them I did mention, Natsumi Maki, who we also know as Natsupoi. And the other is, of course, Mina Shirakawa. Now, she was there with Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling until 2020. She did not make her appearance to Stardom until she left Tokyo Joshi Pro, I believe, in, of course, September of 2020. But she did not make her debut until 2 months later, on November 14th of 2020. Now, how did she was introduced in to be part of the Stardom? Well, as you know, there was a bit of a showdown between Tam and Mina against members of Stars. As you know, Mina was the newest member at the time of Stars. So they dubbed the new member as Zizi. Nobody knows who Zizi was until Unagi made her appearance. And of course, this took place on November 14th of 2020, which is the year that Cosmic Angels was born. And they had an impressive match, and it was, of course, one of the biggest matches in their career where they defeated Stars, and I thought it was a pretty good moment for them. And since then, Unagi has found success with them. She didn't start out doing singles competition with Stardom. She spent much of the time being in trios, even tag teams, and of course, as you all recall, Unagi, along with Tam and Mina, they actually won the artist belts in December of 2020, where they later they put themselves in the biggest test of their lives, where they go to Nippon Budokan to put the artist belts on the line in an elimination match against Star members Mayu Itani, Starlight Kid, and Gokigen Death, now known as Fukigen Death. And that was a pretty good match, but Unagi was the first person that was eliminated, so she didn't do much. But I did like a lot about what she can do. Like I did like how she felt like consulting Tam about beating Stars. Now, Unagi as a singles competitor, from what I can see, she's a bit unorthodox. We have seen wrestlers like that in time. So she did have a trial series with 7 matches against various people. Now, this only happened because Mina Shirakawa was out for 2 months due to a broken nose that took place on her birthday on December 26th of 2020, thanks to Julia. So yeah, she broke her nose, folks. So basically, while that was happening, Unagi ended up. But I think her biggest matches that I can think of, her best ones, is with Sudi. I mean, she does have the fighting spirit. Now, Unagi, on the other hand, as a singles competitor, she didn't do that much. She wasn't much of good at that, but however, I think many of us can say we were surprised with Unagi's performance as a singles competitor when she won the Rumble match on All Dream Cinderella on March 3rd, 2021, where most of the we had a Rumble from past wrestlers, current wrestlers, all of that. So that kind of explains it a lot. But as a singles competitor, we didn't see that much of them until later on in the year, until the future belt was vacant. If you guys remember, Saya Ida, on the other hand, had to vacate her titles due to the future belt due to the fact she got in a shoulder injury. So they set up a tournament. But I think the biggest surprise was how the finals was going to go. We did not anticipate this. It was, in fact, the finals went into a Cosmic Angels showdown between Mina Shirakawa and Unagi. It became clear like who was going to win that belt. And I have to say, many people at the time would have agreed that Unagi should have won that belt first, but instead it went up to Mina. Now, you'd probably say why it didn't do that. I mean, yes. I mean, the thing is, Mina did not have much of experience. I don't know, but Unagi was more of the firecracker of the group. And I think that kind of felt that she should have won it. But Mina did not have that title for long. I think maybe for a month, until Unagi beat her in a match to obtain that title. But what I did like about what she did with this title is do an assessment on every wrestler, especially the current wrestlers in Stardom, but also the newcomers. She already did that twice with none other than Mai Sakurai and Waka, but both of them ended up losing in those matches. But she did not have that title for long. She had it for 84 days until she lost it to Ruka, and that's how it ended right there. Ruka became the new future champion at the time. But Unagi does play out a pretty good, interesting role. But I think one of the best moments with her, as you remember, after Unagi lost to Mina for the future belt, there was the moment where, of course, Sudi, at the time when she was still the CWA champion, she decided to give Unagi an opportunity to challenge for that belt. And I think we all can agree that there are some good matches with Unagi, but mostly coming with Sudi. They always put out the best of each other, but every single time we see Sudi walk out. And I think that's a very far more interesting. I don't know if people are predicting that think, oh, Unagi might leave to join God's Eye. I don't know if people think that way, but no, I don't think that's gonna happen because she doesn't fit like their type of standards as wrestlers, you know. But Unagi, on the other hand, has continued throwing success as part of the Cosmic Angels. Not to mention, you know, what I did like about her is how she played the role of big sister to Waka Tsukiyama. Now, if you guys remember all this, it dates back all the way to February of this year, where Masakurai, who was the fourth member of Cosmic Angels, decided to betray Cosmic Angels and join DDM. Waka, on the other hand, was the only one who's been hurt by this betrayal, like mostly. And of course, you know, Unagi always took care of her, but also Tam does. But Unagi played the role of big sister on certain occasions. If you guys never seen Unagi that way, if you go back to the June 5th match where they face colors and they emerge, there was a moment where Waka was crying and Unagi checked up on her, asking her if she was okay. The reason Waka was crying is because she was happy that, of course, there's new members now within the group, and I think that kind of brings that into tears. But I think my favorite moment is, of course, Unagi, who's trying to, how do I say, get Waka to fire it up, because as you know, there was that match in Flashing Champions, no, Fight to the Top, where Unagi Waka ended up in a three-way match against Ruka. However, Ruka criticized Waka due to the fact she hasn't won a match. But Unagi was trying to remind her, this is not a 2-on-1 match. This is a three-way. So that kind of puts it for Waka in a perspective. But of course, Waka did state that she loves pro wrestling, and that's always been part of her. But I remember Nagi was telling her through Twitter, wanted to hear Waka say it. Do you love pro wrestling? So she did not get the answer after Waka was the one who received the loss from Ruka. Now, as soon as they went back for the backstage comments, Unagi finally wanted to hear her say it, asking her, do you love pro wrestling? And of course, Waka broke down into tears and told her that she does. And I think Unagi was happy for her to hear that. And I feel like Unagi is trying to show her, don't give up at all. Don't stop. And I think that tells us that Unagi is playing the role of big sister, looking out for Waka no matter what. And as you know, of the recent developments, she's cheering for Waka. Now, the biggest development with Unagi to this point was the fact she was at the bottom of this 5-star Grand Prix this year. Now, let's compare that with the 5-star Grand Prix of last year. How did Unagi do on that? Well, I looked into that. To compare it, she only had 9 points in that particular tournament. So, in my calculation, she might have had 4 wins, 1 draw, and I don't know how many losses she had. And I said that was not bad. But compare it now, it was more like, dang, she had more losses than wins. She only had 2 wins in this particular tournament, with beating Saki Kashima of Odatai and Momokogo of Stars. And that kind of goes like, what the hell happened? You know, how did we go from last year to now? I don't know. Sorry, my voice is getting out. So anyway, we ask ourselves, how did Unagi went from last year to this year like that? Who knows? But I can say there is something I have noticed. We all can agree that Mina has improved a lot. And I think that kind of shows, okay, but has Unagi improved herself? That's the bigger question. Now, October 3rd, Japan time. Something happened that people began to freak the hell out. What happened is there was three press conferences by Stardom. The first one was about the new Blood 5. Second one, two subjects. One was the IWGP Women's Championship Tournament and Goddess Tag League. And of course, the third one was about the Hiroshima Goddess Festival taking place on November 3rd. All three of these press conferences, no Unagi. I would have assumed she will be involved in Tag League since I know she's been teaming with Mina a lot. They're dubbed as Pink Kabuki. They have found success as a team, but not successful as in title reigns. As you know, they have challenged FWC for the tag titles some point in spring of this year and unsuccessful. They even challenged for the World Woman Pro Wrestling Diana tag team titles against Luminous, Aruka Himasaki and what's her name? Oh yeah, Miyuki Takase. But however, that success did not go so well. So, where was Unagi? People began to question, began to say, is she leaving Stardom? Well, apparently that's not the case. What happened? If you guys been aware or not, I mentioned this on the news updates. Unagi does have a YouTube channel, and she said she hasn't been active for almost 2 years. Kind of wonder why, but she did state it because she's self-aware of what happened this year. So that kind of goes, okay, what exactly is going on? So it turns out she realized that her record in the Grand Prix didn't do so well. So she made a decision that she's going to be stepping away from Stardom for a while, go a bit of freelances for a few weeks. And that kind of goes, okay. And I was aware before this that she will be involved in two matches outside of Stardom. The first one will be against AOI on Just Tap Out. Now, that particular match didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen like with time. It happened overnight. The way it goes down, Unagi was interacting with AOI, and of course, AOI asked Taka Michinoku if he can book this match. And by the powers of be, he made it happen. Now, you ask, why would he allow Unagi to come back to his turf to challenge one of his girls? Well, I like to believe, as a fan, but also someone who's been watching pro wrestling, I would like to say maybe it could give an opportunity for AOI to, enhance herself more, to enhance her wrestling craft. And I think that's a good thing, I don't think Taka has any problem with it. Because if you guys know this or not, Taka does have some pull a little bit with the New Japan officials, not to mention his self-produced shows with Takataichi Mania is always on New Japan. And I think that, and as you know, New Japan actually broadcasts those shows, and I'm assuming, and as you know, New Japan and Stardom are the parent company, are owned by Bushiroad, and I think that's a good thing to happen. So we'll see how that will take place on the 7th of October. I can't wait to see that one. In the second match, she'll be involved in a tournament match in World Women Pro Wrestling Diana on the 16th. Don't know who she's going to be facing, but this is going to be interesting to come out. Now, someone did post it out saying that Unagi typed in, how do I say this? Her email account for bookings. So, but she did state that she wants to go overseas as well. I wouldn't be surprised if people contact their local promotions from their side to see if they can bring her over. I wouldn't be surprised that Sumi Sakai will be her handler, but she said she would love to go overseas and wrestle, and I'm like, that would be a good thing, because as you know, Stardom will be coming to the States soon for an upcoming event in November, so that's something we will be aware about that. So let's see. I think that's much about what I've been hearing. But however, what is her status with Stardom, as people have been talking? Well, she does stated that she is not leaving Cosmic Angels. She is a member, so that kind of sets into that pattern. Okay, so she's staying. Now, what do I think about Unagi as a wrestler? Well, I did say she's an unorthodox wrestler. One thing I do understand about her, she likes to pick a fight with anybody. It doesn't matter with who or where. She does that even on Twitter. And not to mention, what I do like that I like, it's funny, is that Unagi has been trying to get Saki to be her henchman. I just love that. Even Tam talks about it, and she's like, I'm not too bothered by it. Unagi's just being Unagi. And it makes sense. Unagi is her own person, however she wants to put it out. So, but what do I think of Unagi as a wrestler? Like I said, she's unorthodox. She's a bit of a chaotic wrestler inside the ring, and I get that. And do I think she will grow? I say yes. I mean, I know that none of her moves are that sharpened and all that. I do like how she has this attitude where she likes to pick a fight with anybody, doesn't matter where. Not to mention her behavior during the showcases events on Volume 1 and 2, where she'd pick up the top of Mina on the first one, and then everybody and almost most people's in Cosmic Angels on Volume 2. So that's Unagi being Unagi. Unagi is a different type of wrestler where she's a bit of a weirdo, or people call her the Cosmic Freak. I think that's what makes her her own unique person. People call Waka the little devil, the Cosmic Devil or something, because she did have a devil, like a devil type look before going to Stardom. So everybody has their own personalities, but I think Unagi's personality is a little bit more unique than everybody else's in Cosmic Angels. So, but what I think now about her doing freelancing, I think this is going to be a good thing for her. Not because I say so. I think it's because right now, as wrestlers, we need to understand this. Sometimes, if you know you're not doing well as a wrestler, if you want to improve on your wrestling craft, and I think the best way to do that is to go freelancing. If you guys remember this, when Cody was still with AEW, they mentioned this. Is AEW going to do a developmental program? It's like, no, going to the independents is being developmental. And I have to agree. So I have to say Unagi's doing the right choice. If she wants to do better in wrestling, she needs to go freelancing in order to do that. And I think that's a good thing for her. And we'll see about that. So I think that's pretty much it right now with Unagi. So I will do a follow-up on Unagi on the news updates, because right now I've been hearing this and that all over. So I'll give me time to do that, and I think that's pretty much it. So let's move on to our last and final thing, news updates. Okay, welcome to news updates. Now, you may have heard what's been going on with AEW, so we're going to say, here we go again. More backstage drama, altercation, however you want to call it. but this time it's coming with Andrade and Sammy Guevara. Now, how did this whole thing happen? Well, this is what I've been hearing. Um, Andrade said that Sammy has been complaining towards him about how he hits hard in wrestling. And of course, Andrade says, look, that's how wrestling is. And of course, Andrade said that he has dealt with wrestlers who can hit hard. Like Sheamus is one, The Miz. He even hit John Cena hard and he wasn't complaining. So they've been going back and forth on this on Twitter a lot, and not to mention he's telling him he needs to go back to WWE where he belongs and this and that. But there was the report saying that that this altercation took place exactly today during Dynamite hours, and a lot of the report is conflicting. Some are saying that Sammy threw the first punch, others are saying it was Andrade. But this is what I saw. They sent Andrade home, but they kept Sammy. To me, I find a little bit of the hypocrisy on this. The recent altercation we had after All Out, everybody who was involved went on suspension, but yet Sammy stayed. What's wrong with that picture? I mean, I don't understand it. Why would Tony Khan kept him? They were involved, but we will see two sides of the story. Don't know when or don't know where or how, but I will stay on top of this until more information is coming out. So we'll see what happens then. Now, our final update here. This one, I talked about this in the past. If you guys remember clearly, many moons ago, I mentioned that Freddy Prince Jr., famous actor, wrestling fanatic, who also worked as a writer for the creative team in WWE, wants to start his own wrestling company. And many people have mixed feelings towards it. I get it. But this latest news kind of got my attention. I don't know how you guys would feel about this. He got a hold of Bray Wyatt. Yes, folks, you heard that correctly. Bray Wyatt's like, That's kind of interesting because right now we're hearing that WWE are trying to get him back. So I'm like, okay. Now, what's this about with Freddie Prince Jr.? So, from what it was gathered by Fightful Select, that Freddie Prince Jr. wants to have Bray Wyatt come to his company. Now, we don't know when it will be launched, but what Freddie Prince Jr. offered him was creative control of his character. Now, we have talked about this before. The creative is the one thing that many of the wrestlers care about. We've seen that before, with Kenny Omega. Like, Kenny's not in it for them. He likes to build stories, and I think that's a good thing. But the only problem that Freddie Prince Jr. has is financially. That's the problem. Now, I don't know how he would do this or how. Now, there is no official word when it will be launched. We know he's in talks about having this. Like, he wants to have his own booker who will be involved in this. That is still a long way. So he's trying to go from step A, B, C, D, all the way to Z. That's what he's planning. But this thing with Bray Wyatt, this is kind of interesting. But the obvious question is, will Bray Wyatt return to WWE? That's the key part that we need to determine, because a lot of speculations are coming out about that. But we don't know if that's 100% true. But do we know this thing with Freddie Prinze Jr. is 100% true? Who knows? So we'll just got to wait and see what happens. Just let the universe unfold until it happens. So we'll just leave it as that for now. So I think that's pretty much it, what we have for our news updates. I think it's time to call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. I'm sorry I couldn't add any other wrestling because there was nothing available. I was going to do Wrestle Pro Alaska, but the freaking video wasn't doing well for me. There's been interference with other commentary. That is something I did not want to get. It was confusing me with everything. I decided, you know what, I'm gonna skip it. Just stick with AEW Dynamite for the time being until more wrestling come arise. So I hope you guys enjoy me doing this discussion about Unagi. That way you guys can get a better idea of who she is. Like I said, I will do more follow-ups on Unagi because, of course, people are still talking about her going to freelance. So, all this and that. As you know, for the next episode, I will feature Impact Wrestling. I don't know if there's going to be any other wrestling events I want to post out that, but we'll see what happens then. But I'll stick what we have right now. But for now, I'll see you guys in the next DWZ time. Same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye. Mwah. And have a nice day. Bang.
Are you ready?